So in this video today, I'd like to talk about following your dreams, quitting that full-time job and starting your own business. In this particular case, a photography business. What prompted this video was some comments from a video that I did previously. And a fellow called Daniel in the comments asked this question. He said the one thing he would love to know is when do you know you're ready to risk your full-time job and start out a business? He goes on to say he probably wouldn't start his business for a minimum of 6 months or so to make sure that he's really ready to take that risk from a full-time job to having his own business. But what he would like to know is my experience on this, what went wrong, what went right, how scared I was, how nervous was I, and so on and so forth. But first of all, if you are new to this channel, my name is Richard. I'm a full-time studio owner photographer here in Australia. I own this studio here along with my wife. We specialise in boudoir and we average over multiple 6 figures per annum. And I make these videos because I really enjoy talking about business, and it's particularly the business of photography. So the first thing worth mentioning here is that Daniel mentions he's talking about business in general, and I think that's important to discern. And what I've learned in the past from my previous business, I've certainly carried over into having a photography studio. So it's important to just consider this as a business and not think about it just as a photography business, in my opinion. So to answer this question, first of all, about whether I was scared or not, the answer is yes. I was absolutely shit scared. I was a young guy at the time. It was over 20 years ago now I opened my first company. I had a young family. I had a son who was in primary school. I had a wife. We had a house and a mortgage, all that sort of stuff. In my case, I managed to scrounge up a few $1,000s to get started, which is not a lot of money, obviously. I set up from home. I lived near a hospital at the time. Some friends of mine who worked at the hospital gave me a desk. This desk happened to be an acid-proof desk. I don't know why it was acid-proof, but it was. It was huge too. It was a massive desk. I wish I still had it actually. And so I got this thing home, shoved it under the house. We had a high-set house and the garage was underneath. Shoved this desk under there and set up shop under there. And I used to get up each morning. I used to put on my old business clothes. I put on a shirt and my tie. I'd go downstairs, sit at my acid-proof desk with my computer and printer and start work. And that's how I got started. So as I was putting this video together this morning, I was trying to figure out how I would talk about this. And to be truthful, I was also talking to a friend about it as well. And I got a little bit emotional. You know, I was thinking about the risks that I took and all that type of thing. And while it's boring for everyone else, it was been quite a journey for me. I feel that starting a business is one of those things, if you can make it work and survive, it is one of the most rewarding things that you can do. And you learn a lot about yourself along the way. So I'm not sure why I mentioned that, but I just mentioned it now. But what I decided to do was, rather than go on and on and on and on about things, I decided just to pick out like the 3 best things that happened, the 3 worst things that happened, and then do a bit of a summary at the end. So that way this video doesn't go on for too long. So the 3 things that I feel I did right was that the first thing was an accidental thing, and that was I went all in. Okay, so I didn't have an exit strategy. Okay, the only exit strategy I had was basically going and finding another job. So basically I had no choice to make it work. Say for example, you're a government employee and you decide to try and start your business on long service leave or something like that. In the back of your mind, you've always kind of got that escape hatch to go back to your job. So I'm not sure if that's a good idea for everyone to have that. I think for me, it was better off to be sink or swim. I think it made me work harder. I think it made me hustle harder and be a bit more desperate and put things into action. The second thing is this is something I'm so glad I did early. I treated it like a real business from the absolute get-go. Before I even started, I went and got some advice from a friend of mine's dad who was an accountant. And he helped us set up the books. He set up a chart of accounts, all that really fun stuff. We set up multiple business accounts, so when money came into the business, we would allocate money to pay tax, to pay GST, which is goods and services tax in Australia, and also to pay ourselves, because we want to pay ourselves a wage. And so by setting it up like that at the beginning, it held us in good stead. And I followed that motto all the way through, because one of the big mistakes I think that businesses make, and I think this is true for all businesses, people fail to take into account tax. And if you're not careful, you end up in a vicious circle where you're trying to make money to pay tax because you haven't put aside money for your tax bill. And the more money you make, the more tax you've got to pay, and around in circles you go. So I think it's a really, really good idea to do that at the beginning. The other thing I did right, I understood what I had to do, and that was I had to get clients. Just had to get clients. And so at the beginning, I spent all my time marketing, right? Back then it was really different. Like the internet was still pretty new. We're talking like 2000, 2001-ish, okay? Things like YouTube didn't exist. I might be wrong, but I don't think that it was anything like MailChimp, things like that didn't exist. The way that we marketed was we sent physical letters out. If I had a testimonial from a previous client in a similar industry, I would go and photocopy that and then add that to the letter that I mailed out. So for example, if we were marketing like the doctor's offices, I would do that. You know, I would stuff these envelopes and we'd send them out and hope we'd get some replies. We went through and found websites and found email addresses and like literally sent one email at a time. That's just how we did it back then. I'm not saying it's the right way to do it. There are probably better ways to do it, but that was the way that I did it. Because we had time, there were two of us and we had time to do it. So that's what we did. And so that was something that I understood straight away. I understand that I needed clients. I understand that I needed to get myself in front of people, and it was a numbers game at that stage, and that was exactly what I did. And those things are completely applicable to the photography business, in my opinion. When I started my studio, I did exactly those same things. So I think it applies no matter what you do. So the three big things that I did wrong, and the biggest thing I did wrong is I was too cheap. Now I mentioned this in the last video that I did regarding pricing your work, and I don't want to harp on it now, but I'll give you the 30-second version of it. Is basically I was too cheap out of the gate, and as a result, I lost a lot of money because I was too cheap, and it took me too long to get my prices back up. But I won't harp on it now. But that was definitely the biggest mistake I made, was being too cheap into the market. The second big mistake I made in hindsight was that when I won jobs and when I started getting busy, I stopped marketing. Okay, so, and this is really, really applicable to the world of photography, because so I would get busy. I'd get a project, like I'd get a 2-week job or something like that to implement a network or something like that. And I'd work, and I'd bill and get all this money in, and then I didn't have any bloody work because I'd stopped marketing. Okay, so if I had my time again, I would have set up a marketing plan to continually market all the time. You know what I mean? So that way, then I was never short of leads, because the business I was in, the acquisition of clients was really, really slow. So I needed to be constantly marketing and following up to get that constant stream of leads. The third thing I did that was really wrong was I failed to employ people quickly enough. And as a result, I completely burnt out. I mean, I really burnt out. I worked too much, too long. And when I say that, I'm talking for a couple of years straight. That was what went wrong. And then what happened is, and this is, I think a lot of people who have had business before will nod along with this, is you leave it too late and then you're sort of employing people from a place of desperation, because you just need people, you need bodies to do the work so you can take some time off, and you haven't had the time to bring them in properly. So I feel that was one of the big mistakes I made, was not bringing on people too soon. I was scared of the money it cost to employ people, my commitments to it. To be honest with you, I didn't really know how to do it very well. That was another thing. I think they were the three biggest mistakes I made. There were a heap of other things as well, like not creating procedures quick enough and things like that. But those three things I would say were the biggest ones by far. So having said all that, let me talk about how I would go about establishing a photography business. In fact, how I did go about establishing a photography business. But going about it from the point of view that if I was brand new and hadn't owned businesses before, let me go through that. Now, the first thing I would recommend that people do is have enough cash to carry you through for the first few months at least, if you can manage it. I think if you don't do that, then you're operating from a place of desperation, okay? Which, going back to mistakes that I made, that was a mistake that I made when I had my other business. In fact, I remember, just to go on a sidetrack, to tell you a little story if you're interested, is I remember in the early days sitting in an office with these guys. It was actually a real estate agency. I was vying for, it was a big real estate agency. I was trying to get their work. I'd give my presentation. I was sitting there and we got to the end. I said, oh, well, we'll let you know. Thank you for coming in. And I sat down and said to them, look, guys, I'll tell you the truth. I need this deal like I need air. Tell me what I've got to do to get it, and I will do whatever it is that's required to win your business. And I wouldn't leave until they gave me the business. Now, in hindsight, that's a bit cringy, I know, but that's how badly I needed the work. And so, to state the obvious, I think they just took pity on me, to be truthful. I was a young guy trying really hard, I think they said, oh my God, look at this poor bastard, we'll give him a go. And that's what happened. So, but I don't recommend that because you are coming from a place of weakness. I was just lucky these guys took mercy on me, didn't treat me badly as a result. But like I said, just to give yourself a bit of breathing room, if possible, 3 to 6 months of capital behind you so you can operate from a place of not being under pressure fully. The second thing I think that anyone who's contemplating opening a studio should do, or getting into the business of photography should do, is honestly learn how to market and how to advertise. If you don't know how to do that, don't take your chances of succeeding very quickly. If you can master the art, and I call it an art, of advertising and writing ads and generating leads, if you can get a lot of leads in, and if you can, talk to a lot of people, then you can make a lot of mistakes and get good at this, okay? But you need to know how to do it. You need to know how to make offers, you need to know how to advertise, you need to know where your markets are, you need to know your ideal client. So my suggestion would be, just my suggestion would be to learn how to market and learn how to advertise. I won't get into that here. I could talk about that another day if anyone's interested, but that's what I would do. I wouldn't think of starting a photography business without learning how to do that first. The third thing is, I kind of mentioned this before a little bit, but treat this like a proper business. But I would try and get a coach, bite the bullet, spend the money, get a business coach and let them help you, guide you through, through the minefield of starting a business to start with. What a business coach will do is they will save you essentially years of time. I've said this before as well. I wish there were coaches back when I started in business. It really wasn't a thing. There was no YouTube back then either, so you couldn't go to YouTube and learn from there. But that's what a good business coach will do. Will basically expedite your business journey and get you there quicker. It's worth the money, I promise you. If you can't find a coach, maybe try and go and find an educational platform where maybe there's a group thing going on with things like that. But just you need people to help you get started with this. It's just too difficult on your own to figure all this out. So the next question is when to jump. Like when should you take the leap? In my opinion, the confidence to do something like this comes from having done things. This is just my opinion. So in the lead up to it, if you've studied marketing and how to do advertising, if you studied business, how to set up accounting, all that type of boring stuff, unfortunately critical stuff, and you've done all those things, maybe test the market a little bit, like throwing some ads out there and see what sort of response you get, see whether what you've learned is working. I think that will give you the confidence to go out and do it. So to summarize those three things, one, I think you need some money to back you. I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. I think it's unrealistic to expect to succeed in business without some sort of capital behind you to get started. It's just too difficult. Second thing, like I said, is learn how to market and advertise. And the third thing is treat it as a real business. Set up it as a business, get some help from a business coach or accountant, all those types of things that I talked about. I think that by doing all those things will stand you in good stead and give you the confidence to get started. So next thing is, should you do it or would I recommend you do it? Well, I can't really answer that, but I will mention one thing. If you think you're going to get into this business because it's fun taking photos and that's what you'll be doing all day, I'm sorry to report that's not the case. It's the old thing. The thing that you love doing is the thing you'll spend the least amount of time doing. The day-to-day of running any business is unfortunately marketing, admin, dealing with clients, all that sort of stuff. The actual fun bit is quite minimal. If you're doing it for that, I would suggest just staying in your job or starting a different business and doing photography as a hobby. You know what I mean? That's what I would consider doing. Having said all that, though, I think it's a very rewarding business, and I think the really good news is, and I don't hear this enough, I can't think of another industry where there is so much opportunity to do well, especially if you position yourself in the luxury market. It's like the best kept secret in business, in my opinion. I really mean that. The potential for making money is incredible. Like I actually once I understood the potential in photography, I actually shut down my last company as a result. My last company was going quite well. It wasn't amazing. I mean, if it was really amazing, obviously I wouldn't have shut it down, but it was, making two wages and paying staff, it was quite good. But once I learned about the potential of this industry, I went, oh my God, this is like the best kept secret I've ever heard. So I think the upside is if you're prepared to really work at it, work hard, learn, and treat it like a real business, I can't see any reason why anyone can't do well. It's really up to you. But But having said that, you know, I'm repeating myself a little bit, I think, but business isn't for everyone, and that's absolutely fine. So there you go. If you got anything out of this, I'd love you to subscribe to the channel, or if you are subscribed to it, like it, or better yet, leave a comment. I'd love you to do that. Apparently, it really helps the algorithm. Until I see you next time, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. And have a great week, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Take good care.